Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Shop Talk. Model Man Frank here. How are you doing this weekend? Pretty kind of a somberish type of weekend, but it's a weekend that I'm sure everybody had a good weekend and was able to do the things that we normally do on the weekend: mow the lawn, build model airplanes, spend time with your family, and so on and so forth. With everything that has happened and conspired in the past 24 hours, just want to send our thoughts and condolences to everybody who was out there who was affected by it. We all know what we're talking about. If you're from another country, if you haven't heard the news, I'm not really going to repeat what happened. You can go out and see what's on the news, because this is not what this channel is about. We don't talk about politics here, and I don't want to mention it. I just wanted to send out my condolences to whoever was affected. Oh, let me bring the mic over a little lower. Now you can hear me. Today we are talking about, first of all, let me start by saying, as you see on the sticker up in the upper window over here, you can see that we are on Patreon. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. As they will say, also, it is free to join. Go over there. You can see things that I won't post. I am not on Facebook. I am not on X. I am not on... actually, I do. I am on X sometimes under the same name, Model Man Frank. I am on Rumble, so if you have some friends that follow, or some of you that are following on Rumble on this video on playback, we are not live on Rumble. We are only live on YouTube, but I do put the video recorded on Rumble, so if you are watching on Rumble, thank you very much for supporting the channel. Please, if you'd like to follow us, you can follow me at Rumble at Patreon. It is free to join. There are some videos that are behind the paywall for a reason. One of the things that I'm working on right now is a documentary about my family history in terms of living in my parents. Both my parents are from Cuba. They were alive during the Bay of Pigs invasion, and through the transition from Batista to Castro, they were living in Cuba at the time, and they got out in the early 60s. My grandparents got out in the late 60s. And there's a lot of conversation. There's a small conversation bit that I'm doing. Still putting the video together, so you're not going to see it for a little while. I will build it up. But there are clips from the video over there on Patreon, and if you'd like to watch them, please, I highly suggest you go over to Patreon. Some will be made free, some will not. Again, it supports the channel, and it supports the work that I do here. And if you do support it that way, I greatly appreciate it. We just hit 5,000 members on YouTube, 5,000 viewers on YouTube, and subscribers. To everyone that is subscribed to my channel, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I greatly appreciate it, and it shows me that you enjoy the content that I put out and the videos that I put out and the stuff that I find. I find some pretty interesting stuff, you have to admit. So, getting down to it, we're going to talk about the Stinson Airliners. Today we're going to talk about Stinson. You probably didn't even know that Stinson Aircraft, yes, the one that made the Stinson Reliant and the Stinson Sedan and the Stinson Voyager, they made an airliner. They made two airliners. In the 1930s, in the early 1930s, they created two airliners. The very first one to come out was the Stinson SM-6000. That's this aircraft right here. Now, some of the videos, I'm going to show you some videos on this, but we're going to talk a little bit about this airplane first. This aircraft came out, it's kind of up under the air. I looked around for more information about it, but this aircraft came out between 1930 and the first flight was probably 1933. That's what I'm thinking. There's not a lot of clear information on the web about when the aircraft. And a lot of my books, a lot of the books that I have here, there's really nothing in here about that. So I did find that two major carriers carried it, had the plane. American Airlines and Delta Airlines. I actually have a book here. Delta Airlines, it's a little history book of Delta Airlines. I scanned the photo from here, and I can't find the photo anywhere on my computer. I do apologize. If I do find the photo, I'll post it, a photo of it in my community page, and I'll post it on Patreon so you can see the photo. I'll actually post it on Patreon so you can see the actual photo as soon as I find it. Again, I looked in the computer because I wanted to show it to you guys here on the thing, and I can't find it. I don't know where it is. I don't know why it won't pop up. So, but first flight for the Stinson was between 1932 and 1933. It's really up in the air on when that actually happened. The aircraft was built. There were 80 of these planes built, and there's only 2 of them left. One is at the Fantasy of Flight in Lakeland, Florida. It's owned by Mr. Kermit Weeks. It is in flying condition. I don't know if he's had it flying in the recent months. I hope to maybe some time in the future go over to the museum and get some good video of the aircraft. It was powered by 3 Lycoming engines. Now, this aircraft was created as a competition to the Ford Tri Motor. Ford Tri Motor was a lot more. It was already out there. It was a little bit more roomier. I'm going to show you a video of this aircraft. The wing struts, everything for the wing went through the body of the plane. Ford Tri Motor, the whole wing was, the top of the wing was actually one piece, and it was attached to the fuselage through other struts that actually went through the frame. This plane, there's not a lot about it on video. There's not a lot of videos about it. Not a lot of people talk about it, which is kind of sad because it was a revolutionary little airplane. It carried 10 passengers, just like the Ford Tri Motor did. It wasn't created in the masses, and it didn't have the advertisement power like Ford had behind their aircraft. Ford was the Model T, the Model A, and then they came out with an airplane, the Ford Tri Motor, and that's, they really plugged it. Stinson really didn't have much of a advertising background in terms of pushing this plane. So the 3 Lycoming engines were R680s, and they were radial engines. Each motor was producing 215 horses, and the height altitude on this aircraft could be at 16,000 feet. So it was 10 passengers, not including the 2 pilots. So that's basically what's going on there. It was a tubular structure with an aluminum frame. And if you look at the wing, the way it's designed, let me just make this a little bigger so you guys can see. You can see right there that the wing has got a square to it, and then you've got the struts over the aircraft also. You have the cowlings that, those cowlings actually provide more cooling to the engine. And it just makes it look prettier. But it was a really pretty looking airplane. I mean, for Stinson to build such a gorgeous aircraft. I'm going to show you guys a video, and I'm going to talk behind it. It has no sound. There's no sound quality. I will provide a link in the description box below to this video. Let me see if I can find you that video. So you can see, it even shows video. The video even goes, what happened was this gentleman his dad owned an airplane, owned an SM6000B model, which was the last of them to be built. And he took video of his dad flying and keeping the plane. The plane was owned in the 1960s, and really interesting looking plane. I mean, it really did some. Let's see which video we can. Actually, we'll show this one here. Just gotta wait for it, I guess, to pull up. There it is. So the video, kind of make it bigger. It jumps around a lot. I guess that's why the screen. It's an old video. There's no sound. You won't be able to hear the motors. In the next video that I show you of the aircraft, I'll be able to show motors. But this was his dad's aircraft. As you can see, the window was changed. It's no longer swept forward. Okay. And you can see the 3 motors there. It's not a very big airplane. The Ford Tri Motor had a more stance that was more lifted. If you've seen the Ford Tri Motor, it had more of a sit down feel to it. But it was a really interesting looking plane. Luggage was not carried in the upper stages. It was actually carried in the back of the aircraft. Ford Tri Motor, they had that beat. That plane was actually really good at carrying the aircraft, carrying weight on board the plane. The 3 motors didn't really push out a lot of horsepower. 215 horsepower. It wasn't a lot, but it got the job done. So it was only used on very short haul routes. There's starting up the motors, the center motor. The center motor will be started first, then the outboard motor started up. See how he's just cranking them over, runs them up, gets them nice and juiced up with oil and everything like that, and then he proceeds with the taxi out. Man, that plane must have, to be an owner of that aircraft, really is. And I hope to be able to go and see Kermit Weeks' one. His is painted up in American Airlines colors. Really, really pretty colors in it. And so on. I like the way that the wing, you can actually tell that there was a lot of cargo space in that tail. So you had an ample amount of space. The frame was very long, the fuselage itself. There it is already up in the air. See that landing gear with that strut in there? It was very loud. Now there's the cabin. You can see that the cabin had wood, and it was wood teaking. That panel style wood. There's he's there running the mixture controls. The yoke was a steering wheel from a car. That's how they designed the wheel, because that way it would give you more of a feel like a car. That motor proved to be a lot of loud. There was a lot of noise in these planes. So there is a video of him, I guess his family member, talking. So behind the door in the back was where the cargo went. And you can see behind the woman, there is the strut for the wing. That holds the wing to the plane. So you had to walk around that strut, which in the Ford Tri Motor you did not have to. Just got to freeze it right there. And you can actually see the strut. There's one in the front and there's one in the aft, and then you have different struts going through the windows themselves. There they are coming in for landing. With some passengers on board. It was a pretty interesting flying plane. Again, the videos, I'll put a link to his video on in the description box below so you'll be able to see. What a great looking plane. Would have loved to talk to this gentleman and find out more about the plane, what the plane flew like. Not a lot of people know about it. It's sad. But, you know, again, if you're watching this on playback, I know none of you are really here. I know you're probably watching the video. You haven't really said anything out loud. But great plane to really be. I'm going to show you another one here. And this one, you'll actually be able to see the plane in actually with the motors running. I believe the one that I'm going to show you right now is owned by Kermit Weeks, but it was before Weeks actually owned the aircraft. And you can actually hear the motors running. I really want you guys to hear this one. You can hear the plane taking off there, going off into the. That was at Oshkosh. That flight there, that aircraft you see there, that was taking off at Oshkosh in Wisconsin. Looks like it was probably in the late 70s. Actually, I'm thinking that video there is probably from the from 1990s. I found it somewhere, and you know, it was something I really wanted you to see. The next video I'm going to show you is the Model A. So Stinson built the SM6000. They tried selling it to the military. Didn't really go so well. But they were able to build 80 of these planes, and it flew 10 passengers. So it did pretty well. It didn't have the same numbers as the Fokker or the Ford Tri Motor. Now the Fokker, there was a design flaw with the Fokker. The Fokker Tri Motor had a wooden upper structure for the wing, for the mounting bolts to the fuselage. It had a lot of wood in the plane along with aluminum. So a lot of crashes. Because what would happen is at high altitude, the wood would actually soak in water. And what usually happens when wood gets rotted from water, it starts to fall apart, right? So there were some crashes where the wing would actually separate from the fuselage, and the fuselage would come down to the air, to the ground. So a lot of people died in the early stages of that aircraft. As time went on, Fokker got it right and put an aluminum structure in it, but that was already fate was sealed. The Ford Tri Motor was a lot nicer flying airplane, and it was all aluminum structure. Ford did it right in that one. They were the Boeing at the time. The next one I'm going to show you is the Stinson Model A. It was a low-wing aircraft to compete against the Model 247, which was the Boeing model. Now, as you see in one of my videos that I talk about the Boeing aircraft, this aircraft that we're talking about here is the Model A Stinson. It was a low-wing monoplane. It was a tri-motor aircraft. And you can tell it also had retractable landing gear, which was new. Now, the Curtis Condor already had retractable landing gear, but for Tri-Motor to have retractable landing gear, that was even better, you know. This one had retractable landing gear. This one here, I'm not exactly sure who owns it. I believe it's the Kalamazoo Air Museum, or this one's a private owner. This is the only one that's known to exist. I looked around trying to find it. This one had 3 Lycoming R685 radial engines, same motor as the SM6000. Had the same horsepower, 215 horses. Okay, but the passenger count was lower. It was only 8 passengers, so you were down 2 passengers. So you were able to carry, compared to the 10 that you could carry on the Model 247, which was the Boeing model. Now, the Boeing model wasn't so great because you had to climb over the wing strut, and I believe this aircraft, as you can see, has wing struts on the outside of the aircraft to hold it to the fuselage. I'm sorry, the R280 was not the same horsepower. The horsepower was actually up on this plane. It was 260 horses, and it could fly up to 17,000 feet. So 1,000 feet higher than the Model 6000. 31 of these planes were built, and the only big purchaser of this aircraft was American Airlines. Mostly American Airlines was the primary purchaser of this plane. It was highly used on their routes. It did get used when American Airlines got rid of the planes and they went into DC-2s and DC-3s. It went South America and it was used widely down there, and it was used overseas. But it was used widely in South America. I do have a video of it to show you, and that way you can see it taxiing around. Let's see if I can find that video. Again, I'm really sorry I wasn't able to show you I really wanted to show you the one from that book. But again, I'll put it on Patreon so you guys can take a look at it. Again, go to my Patreon page. I do have a lot more stuff on there that I post that does not appear on here. And you will see some pretty interesting stuff. Just to let you know, this video was taken at Oshkosh in 2012. Just to let you know, this video was taken at Oshkosh in 2012.
Sorry about that. I just realized that I did not have this hooked up. And if you didn't hear me very well, I do apologize. Somebody hit the like button. So I'm glad that you are able to hear me. I do apologize for that. I hope you were able to hear all the information on this. So this is the primary airline that this aircraft flew with. This is really all I can find for about these two aircraft. I mean, for planes that had, they brought Stinson a little bit of money. They were a little late to the game. If they had come out a little earlier, maybe they would have been a little different. But Douglas and Boeing were the powerhouses, and so was Ford. They had better advertising. Stinson was a little late. I guess maybe it would have been a different prospect altogether, So but it it saddens me that there's not many. I really wish, like overseas, there's like Lufthansa, which is German backed, and they went ahead and saved one of their own aircraft, and they did a commercial flights with that plane for a little while. I wish airline companies in this country would do something like this and actually help preserve this aviation history. Now I know they probably give some money, but they don't really help preserve their aircraft. TWA used to, but American Airlines doesn't even have an air museum based after them to show the history of their planes. And it's kind of sad that way. I really wish you would see more of that. Today was an off day. I really do apologize if you're not hearing my voice too well, and it's probably very loud. Again, just to give you guys a heads up, next week we're going to talk about a plane I don't think a lot of you know about. Some of you probably know about it, but I remember it from the 1990s, late 1980s, and early 1990s when it came out. Built by Burt Rutan, and it was a jet that was supposed to be it was marketed as a close air support jet. Built by Burt Rutan, it had that design features of Burt Rutan. Scale Composites Model 51. We're going to talk about that aircraft. There is a lot of information, and there's only a very few videos out about it. We're going to talk about that plane and what the technology that it had in it, and what could have been a great close air support plane. And we will talk about that plane next week on next week's broadcast. That video will probably go a little longer, and today I don't have very much. If you guys watch this on playback and you enjoy it, please make sure to hit the thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel, thank you very much for subscribing. I really appreciate it. To all 5,000 of you that subscribe to this channel for daily videos of aviation. I know you all love aviation just as much as I do, and really like it a lot. Aviation is what makes the world go around. Thank you to the Wilbur Wright brothers and all of those who brought aviation forward. And to Stinson, he built two great-looking airliners. I think they're beautiful. I don't know what you guys think. Please leave your comments in the box below. I'll leave you guys some information about these planes. If you ever want to build one of these two airplanes, there are Baselwood plans for you to do it. You could probably even build a foam board version of this aircraft. There are some remote control guys out there that have done RCs of this plane. Specifically this one. I haven't seen an RC model of the SM6000. But I have seen an RC model made in Europe of the Model A, which doesn't really make sense, but whatever. Again, thank you guys very much for watching tonight. Hope you spend the rest of your night well with your family, and or if you're building anything. Again, follow me over on Patreon. I think you will actually like it a lot, joining me over there. You can share your videos and you can ask me questions. I will answer you as quick as I can, and that way we're able to talk more. Let me put my Patreon link up there so you guys can see it. That way you can follow me there. So yeah, follow me up, Model Man Frank, over on Patreon. There's other content creators over there that you probably recognized. I have a lot of my stuff is still free on there, and I want you guys to come over and join, and we can have a conversation. That's, again, thank you to the members that have joined. I really do appreciate it, and it's a real thrill to be able to talk to you guys and have discussions with you. So again, everybody have a good night, and I will talk to you guys next week about Burt Rutan's Model 51, Scale Composites Model 51. See you in the next one. Talk to you later. Model Man Frank out.